harbored in the Saviour's breast. 'Tis there I would always abide, and never a moment depart, concealed in the cleft of thy side, eternally held in thy heart. It is difficult to conceive of a more essential disorganization of human life, a pollution of the sources of spontaneity, bound to reflect itself in every aspect of personality. Since joy was associated with sin and guilt and pain, Christ's wounds, with goodness and love, so every impulse became twisted into the reverse, and it became natural to suppose that man or child only found grace in God's eyes when performing painful, laborious, or self denying tasks. To labor and to sorrow was to find pleasure, and masochism was love. This strange imagery was perpetuated during the years of the Industrial Revolution, and not only in Methodist hymnody, but also in the rhetoric of sermons and confessions. Nor did it pass unnoticed. The deity is personified and embodied in the grossest of images. Lee Hunt commented in an essay on the indecencies and profane rapture of Methodism. If God must be addressed in the language of earthly affection, why not address him as a parent rather than a lover? But by the end of the 18th century, the Methodist tradition was undergoing a desolate change. The negation or sublimation of love was tending towards the cult of its opposite, death. Charles Wesley himself had written more than one hymn which presages this change. O lovely appearance of death! No sight upon earth is so fair, not all the gay pageants that breathe can with a dead body compare. The Methodist tradition here is ambivalent. On the one hand, Methodist preachers perfected techniques to arouse paroxysms of fear of death and of the unlimited pains of hell. Children from the age that they could speak were terrified with images of everlasting punishment for the slightest misbehavior. Their their nights were made lurid by Fox's Book of Martyrs and similar reading, but at the same time, those who could read were deluged throughout the early 19th century with the tracts which celebrated holy dying. No Methodist or evangelical magazine for the mature or for children was complete without its deathbed scene, in which, as Lee Hunt also noted, death was often anticipated in the language of bride or bridegroom, impatient for the wedding night. Death was the only goal which might be desired without guilt, the reward of peace after a lifetime of suffering and labor. So much of the history of Methodism has, in recent years, been written by apologists or by fair minded secularists trying to make allowances for a movement which they cannot understand, that one notes with a sense of shock Lecky's judgment at the end of the 19th century. A more appalling system of religious terrorism, one more fitted to unhinge a tottering intellect and to darken and embitter a sensitive nature, has seldom existed.